Shiny Nidrafiner!
That guy is me, screaming over a swap of some pixels. Why? Because that color swap of pixels has a 1 in 8,192 chance of happening. But in modern terms, we call that a shiny Pokémon. And trying to find a shiny Pokémon is called shiny hunting. I have been shiny hunting for years now, where some of the shiny Pokémon I found is way rarer than others. Which got me thinking, which shiny Pokémon across all generations is actually the rarest shiny Pokémon of all time? The answer to that question goes pretty deep. So in order to answer it, I reached out to a bunch of fellow shiny hunters in the community for their opinions on the rarest shiny Pokémon of all time. Did hours of research myself and made a video about it. The rarest shiny Pokémon of all time. The answer to that question is not so black or white. First of all, we need to define what we mean by rare. To define rare, I made a list of criteria. This list is made together with all of the different answers I got from the shiny hunters in the community, together with my own thoughts. Let's start with the first criteria on the list. A low percent encounter. This shiny Pikachu took me over 213k encounters to find, and me finding 19 shiny worms before I actually found it. The Pikachu itself, not being shiny, has a 5% chance of happening in the Viridian Forest, but this shiny Pikachu is not even close to being the rarest shiny of all time. First of all, a 5% encounter is rare, but then there is 1% encounters. Second of all, finding a wild Pikachu in these games are way easier in the power plant, where Pikachu has a 25% encounter rate. The reason I'm using my shiny Pikachu as an example is also to explain the following. Different attributes to the shiny Pokémon itself, such as the met location, a certain move the Pokémon has when finding it, is something that came up multiple times when talking to other shiny hunters. Taking this into account, we are now adding the next criteria to the list, calling it special attribute. Special attribute. A lot of things falls into this criteria. The met location of the shiny Pokémon itself, a special mark, a special move, only obtainable in a certain way, or an under or over level shiny Pokémon, and so on. I'm sure you watching this could potentially come up with even more special attributes, but this should be enough to make the point. Let's move on. The next criteria on the list we will call time. What do I mean by time, and how is it relevant? The reason I included time on the list is not to state that more hours always equals more rarity. Correct me if I'm wrong, but when Pokemon Scarlet and Violet version had been out for a while, everyone was hyping up how hard it was to find a 3-segment shiny Dunsparce. If you're not familiar with the 3-segment shiny Dunsparce, you basically have a 1 in 100 chance of your Dunsparce being a 3-segment Dunsparce upon evolving it. This means that you in theory would have to find 100 shiny Dunsparce to have one of those evolving to a 3-segment shiny Dunsparce. With that being said, obviously the shiny 3-segment Dunsparce is very rare, and I'm not trying to take anything away from you if you own one of these, but time-wise, it doesn't take you that long to find all of the 100 shiny Dunsparce to reach odds, compared to other shiny hunts, where you will have to spend 10 times the amount of time to reach the odds. The result of this is that I already know a lot of people have obtained this shiny, while there are still shinies out there that people haven't even found yet. And by saying that, we go on to the next criteria on the list, quantity. This criteria is simple. The fewer times a shiny Pokémon has been found, the rarer it is. While asking shiny hunters in the community about their opinion on the rarest shiny Pokémon of all time, SpeedTwist96 stated this: "So I see the rarest as in hasn't been gotten often. I personally think the Johto starters in XT are so unhunted that I would consider them one of the rarest. Besides me getting all 3 of them, and just one other guy recently, a year ago, getting the Cyndaquil, nobody has gotten them, or even attempt them." Speed definitely makes a good point here. How rare is actually a shiny Pokemon if everybody has it? I will give you an example. In the past, I have found 3 shiny roamers. Roamers is known to be some of the most tedious shiny hunts you can ever take on, because of one reason only. Time. They are very time consuming. You average roughly 10 roamers seen per hour for hunting the beasts in Fire Red Leaf Green on one system, using the gatehouse method. For this reason, they used to be very unhunted. People did not want to put in the effort trying to find them. With the shiny hunter community being far more ambitious these days when it comes to take on hard hunts or time consuming hunts, you see people hunting and finding these roamers way more often. The amount of shiny roamers I've seen people find the last year alone is way higher than back in the days. Therefore, even though all of the roamers across the different generations would be considered very rare shinies in my eyes, they don't make it that far on the list, being the rarest shiny of all time, because so many people have them. Next criteria. Accessibility and setup. This is where it gets tricky. When we're talking about the rarest shiny of all time, are we talking about the actual species, or are we talking about the accessibility and the setup for the hunt? You have shiny Manaphy, which has the stigma of being the rarest shiny of all time, and that is why I made this Twitter poll that I will show you now. So as you can see here by this poll that I made on Twitter, I asked the question, is shiny Manaphy the rarest shiny of all time for one reason only? On the table for the rarest shiny of all time, Manaphy always gets talked about. I was not expecting this by making the poll, but as you can see here, 538 people voted, 57.2% thinks shiny Manaphy is the rarest one. And my friend Matt actually makes a good point here. Matt says the following: on a currently huntable species basis, I'd say yes, especially considering how unlikely it is for somebody randomly traded their Manaphy egg back in the day and got a random shiny. Rarest hunt overall though? Nah man, it's just another egg hunt. Many 1% and costumes beat it in my opinion. On a species basis, there isn't really too many Pokemon that compete with Manaphy on how we actually get the shiny. Shiny Manaphy is insanely obscure to get, where you have to play through a game called Pokemon Ranger to get the Manaphy egg, to then have that egg traded over to one of the main series games in Generation 4. Not only that though, but you can only obtain 1 egg per copy of Ranger. Then you hatch your egg in either Diamond, Pearl, Platinum, Heart Gold, Soul Silver, check if the Manaphy is shiny, to then reset your save file and make a completely new one. Play up to the point where you can trade Pokemon again, trade the egg over again to the new file, hatch the Manaphy again, and then reset your game if it's not shiny again. Then you repeat this process until it shines. In theory, that sure requires a lot of time, accessibility in terms of the Pokemon Ranger game, multiple consoles and games, and so on. But the reason why Manaphy has this stigma of being the rarest shiny, other than the insane method of obtaining the egg and the hunt itself, it's because of what Matt said, I think. The species itself. Some people, and in this case I'm a Blissey, good content creator by the way, also would argue that shiny Jirachi is the rarest one because of a similar situation. It's insanely hard to get your hands on. There are different ways to get it, but you need the Colosseum bonus disc in one case, and either you soft reset for it, which makes the odds around 1 in 7k roundabout, or you do the channel Jirachi one, where if I'm not mistaken you have to play through the entire game per shiny check. The Jirachi is more of a debate on how legit it is to a lot of people, and for that reason alone I would still consider Manaphy the rarest species of all the different Pokemon. But once again, when you actually have set up the hunt, talking Manaphy now, it's basically just another egg hunt. I mean, sure it's time consuming, but you have far more time consuming hunts out there. Honorable mentions are the shiny costumes in Battle Revolution, but those aren't shiny Pokemon. Those are costumes. Still impressive as heck, and still costumes. So back to the rarest shiny Pokemon of all time. Now we have went through all of the criteria I made on the list, and in my opinion, Manaphy is not it, for the reasons I've discussed earlier. But once again, going back to quantity, I know of a shiny Pokemon there is only one person in the entire world who has found that we know of on the internet. And that person just happens to be my good friend Oliver. Let's see what Oliver has to say on the topic. Maybe he thinks this 1% shiny he is currently the only one to have seen, maybe obtained, we don't know yet, is the winner. So Mr. Oliver MKP, you are currently, from what we know of, the only person in the entire world who has found the exclusive 1% shiny dragonair. Tell me how it happened and why you took on this insane challenge in the first place.
Okay, so there are a couple of things. At first, I'm quite a big fan of the Dratini line, and like in general, I love shiny Dratini and Dragonair especially. And I also always was interested in like yeah, low percent hunts. Like I'm shiny hunting for like a little over 15 years now, and you know, during your hunting sessions, you always daydream about like your future hunts, what you might want to do, and like, oh yeah, this hunt is also cool. And like in those 15 years, I actually had a couple of times where I thought about like, what would actually be like a something rare I could do, something like something of a bigger project, like. And I always thought about like, would be cool to try to go for 1% shiny, just any 1% shiny, right? I loved Dragonair as a Pokemon. I love the fact that you can find an underleveled Dragonair in the Safari Zone, and it's in the flipping Safari Zone,
Yeah.
right? So if you find the 1% shiny, you don't even know if you catch it. And to me, like every time I thought about this, it just felt so thrilling of an adventure. So like, you know, I think in July, August 21 is when I decided, okay, let's actually try to go for the Dragonair.
Nice. Yeah. And now you have finally found it 2 years later, extremely under odds as well.
Extremely under odds.
How many fishing encounters did it take you now again exactly?
It was 132,931 total fishing encounters.
And how many total fishing encounters would you in theory have to do in order to get it? Like do you have a number on that?
Yeah, so basically, like, the odds are 8192, right? It's a 1% spawn, so you take that 1% times 8192, 819,200. Like, you could round it to 820,000 to have, like, an easier number in mind. But basically, 1 in 820,000 to find a Dragonair. But not to catch one. Then you have, like, a 19% chance to catch it if you use the bait strat. I actually have, like, here the I always have a print now, the base strat from shout out to Professor Rex at this point, actually. I've always had it printed, right? The whole base strat, in case I find like the Dragonair.
With the pace you were hunting the Dragonair and how many encounters you got, like weekly, monthly, whatever, how long, in theory, if you wouldn't have been as lucky as you were, how long would it have taken you to actually find the shiny 1% Dragonair?
By the pace I had right now, like with Menifee on the side as well, you know, with like the Colosseum hunts and stuff, I didn't hunt Dragonair every single day. I hunted it like every other day. And with the pace, it would have still taken me between 4.5 and 5 years to get to odds. So yeah, that was... That's actually kind of mind-blowing to think about.
Would you consider Shiny Dragonair being the rarest shiny in Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green?
Yeah, definitely. Like, I thought about this a couple of times, and if we talk about like the rarest shiny you want to obtain, then definitely, because it's a 1 in 820k roundabout chance to find one. But then you only have a 19% chance to catch one. And actually, on the Rex's table, if you utilize the base strat, 4,289,325 total fishing encounters to catch one in average.
Would you say Shiny Dragonair is the rarest shiny Pokemon of all time, Oliver?
It's such a rare shiny, like it's actually mind-blowing to think about how rare it is, but it's not the rarest if we look at all games. It's actually not, or the hardest to obtain, because if we look at all games, there's actually also 1% artillery in Pokemon Emerald, which is basically the same as the Dragonair, the same scenario as the Safari Zone, it's fishing encounters with the Super Rod, but fishing encounters in Hoenn it's hell.
Yep.
We have like the dragonair, which is super rare, but the hunt itself is super easy. You have auto hook and fire leaf green. It's super comfortable. You don't need to time your A presses. You just chill and fish. It's super chill hunt. It's just very long, right? But in Emerald, you actually need to time your A presses, and you have multiple bites as well. Multiple A presses you need to perform for one hook with the Super Rod and Hoenn, and it basically has the same rarity, but the hunting process is so much harder.
Which makes the shiny rarer.
Which makes the shiny essentially rarer, since like, yeah, less people would go for it, less people have potentially found it randomly because, yeah, the process is just harder.
And you are the only person, once again, that we know of on the internet who has found the 1% shiny dragonair. But we haven't, I believe, seen one single person like that could prove Octillery has been found, right?
Yeah, it's so far it's never been found. At least not on real cartridges, or there's no like we don't know of any evidence.
Maybe, just maybe, Octillery in Emerald Safari Zone could be the rarest shiny of all time.
It could potentially be the rarest shiny.
So for the conclusion of my interview with Oliver, I came up with the following. In my eyes, Octillery is the rarest shiny of all time. With that being said, I'm not saying Octillery is the rarest shiny of all time, but in my eyes, it is. There are still shiny Pokemon out there that people haven't even found. I got so many examples from fellow shiny hunters. Kyle talked about Stadium 2 shiny Pokemon nobody has found. And LJ was talking about event Pokemon that was only available for a short period of time. But the way I see it is, I want people to be able to hunt for the rarest shiny of all time. I don't want it to be something that was only obtainable in a certain limit of time. And then again, we don't even know if somebody has found that specific Pokemon. And that is why, to me, once again, Octillery takes the spot for the rarest shiny of all time. With that being said, obviously I'm not saying it is the rarest one, because it all comes down to what you consider rare and your perspective of it. So please tell me in the comments, guys, which shiny Pokemon across all generations do you think is the rarest shiny Pokemon of all time? Thank you so much for watching this video, it was so much fun to make. Please leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it. Consider subscribing if you're new here. My name is Nils, and I will see you guys in the next one.